back, everybody, to another episode of Gas is on the Right. No, he's got a chance to win the race.
I think that might have been like one of the cleanest hits I've ever seen in a NASCAR fight.
Side Rick. Yeah, the back. Oh! Into the wall hard goes Ryan Blaney.
And he finally came to a stop, and it was just dead silent.
I said this last week, and I'm going to keep reiterating it. Live with the decisions you make. Drive by the decisions you make. Don't change up your style, but also just don't be dumb. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Gas is on the Right podcast. This week is going to be Daniel and Alan. Emily decided to cut down a power pole, so she will be out for the week thanks to the weather with a power outage. But, I mean, we could just dive right in. I don't know if there's much to talk about race-wise, but there's a lot of things that we can debate about on how to fix it. So I don't know where you want to start.
There's a lot to gripe about, but not a lot to talk about besides just complaining. I guess we can get through the mechanical stuff of what there is to talk about.
Right.
We start off with, obviously, Hendrick Motorsport pretty much dominated the entire race besides the second stage where Joey Logano led all the race in the second stage.
Dumb strategy
on 180 left side lap tires. 180 laps on the left side tires.
Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's throw that tire on my car and let me just use it for commuting. That's a 40,000 mile tire. I love Goodyear. Goodyear's been a sponsor forever, but you don't put street tires basically in how they wear onto a race car. That's 180 plus laps at Martinsville, 180 miles in a cup car going around that track, and looked nothing like the Bristol tire when it came off. Yeah, it had some it was starting to come apart, but it should have came apart at lap 60 or 70. It should have started wearing more. But they brought concrete tires to a short track. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than just this was the same tire from last year, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, the same tire from last year that didn't work.
Yeah.
And they keep saying, well, we're making aerodynamic changes to the short track. It's this is clearly not an aerodynamic thing. It's obviously a tire thing because Bristol didn't have this aero package. It was just a tire wear race. And guess what? That showed how good of a short track race this car is actually capable of. Yet we go to Richmond and Martinsville, and now Richmond's looking like it's going to lose a date. And God only knows with Martinsville, because Richmond was more watchable than Martinsville was, Yeah,
and people started talking about that this week of Martinsville losing a date. I mean, your short track is the bread and butter of NASCAR. It should be. And it should be like the super speedways, events that are highly publicized, highly looked forward to, and highly sought after for tickets. And I was thinking about going to Martinsville this fall, and if they don't change the package, I probably won't go.
Yeah, no shot.
I would love to go experience it, but I also don't want to go watch a 400 lap parade, even if it is for
and there was no candy.
Yeah, they didn't even give. Come on.
Yeah.
Not even any marbles.
If the drivers are going to run around doing parade laps like that, you ain't going to be candy. Throw hot dogs. It's Martinsville. Throw some hot dogs out of the car to the stands if y'all are going to just do parade laps around there. Because that's all that happened. It was just an accordion. Yeah. Somebody drive away and get to the
next
lap traffic, and then everybody would catch back up. And then, the TV's trying to make it interesting because they're like, oh, wow, look, the top 7 cars are within 2 seconds of each other. And it's like, I don't want that at a short track. This isn't Daytona. This isn't a mile and a half. This is a short track. I would like 2 seconds between first and second place. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And then
just talking
and then
about just
30
that
laps
in
later,
general.
see if he can maintain that 2 seconds. Or did
Right.
he overdrive his stuff and is second place going to catch back up to him then?
Mhm.
Not that. That's just it's not even racing. Yeah, like that
No.
they weren't racing.
No, and
Like it was
here's
just
my whole issue is this is a problem that I have, is they're trying to fix the car, quote unquote. And they're taking components out of teams' hands, manufacturers' hands. And I get that. I get that they're trying to cut costs and everything like that, but we're not even seeing that. But then again, talking about the argument that you could see on Twitter that's gone pretty viral in the NASCAR community of 20 years ago, it was $120,000 to run a cup car with a motor. Now it's $400,000 just to get a cup car without a motor. But you got to
yeah.
factor in, with it is 2024. I mean, a gallon of gas in Georgia right now just went up 20 cents overnight to almost 350 or above a gallon. So you're looking at the pricing and everything. So there's a little bit of variation there, but they're not
Yeah,
giving
well, I
them
mean, you
anything
got
to
to
work
factor
with.
inflation for sure,
Oh
you
yeah.
know.
I mean, you're probably looking at a $200,000 difference, but also you're not buying 14, 15 chassis per team. You're allowed 7.
No.
But it further from there is, it should be something to where you get handed this. This is what it'll do. Like, for example, hand them the Bristol car that they had this spring and say, look, this is what your tires will do if you wear them. This is what happens when you run the car hard. You can go 50. If you save, you can run maybe 65. You're lucky to get 70. Hand it to the teams. These people are in these positions because they know what they're doing. They know how to adjust a car. This isn't me on heat 5 dropping air pressure on one side or the other so that I could beat the CPUs on the career mode or anything along those lines. These are people that are paid hundreds, thousands to probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to create a car that can beat other cars. So there should not be. Granted, this car was supposed to even the playing field. It has. There was a 0.4 of a
Too
second
much.
difference between first and 36th in qualifying.
If
And
you add all 37, it was 1.4.
well, again, I'm gonna do like DBC and not include David Starr, but
Yeah.
if you count the 36 chartered teams, there was a 0.4 of a second difference, and that honestly should not be the case. There should be more variation during lap times, and there wasn't. There should be more deviation in the process, and that's because these teams have been hired. These people have been hired to create and make a car faster, and again, I'm going to take another point from DVC, is that Hendrick's going to load faster than Spire, but Spire is going to be able to make up more ground than Hendrick on adjustments because Hendrick unloaded fast. But there shouldn't be everybody unloads 0.4 of a second. There should be more.
Well,
These
that's the I
people are
mean,
paid this to do this, and they should understand. They understand how to create the car. They understand how to build the car. They understand how to run the car. They understand how to adjust the car. NASCAR doesn't need to sit there and say, well, you can't do this, 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 and this. And we make a lot of comparisons to F1. If you look at F1, look at Red Bull versus like Mercedes versus Honda. I think Honda runs an F1, but they have different variations in their builds and they create speed that way. And that's something that should be, and at least even just in the tire. I mean, yeah, we can adjust tire pressure and everything, but if don't hand them a brick, hand them a toilet paper roll, and let them figure out what they need to do and how they need to run the car to make it happen, and let the driver put it in their hands. Because granted, these cars are hard to drive, but I'm pretty sure that you could have thrown almost anybody in any of the top 3 series in NASCAR that probably I'd say has a win under their belt, just to not create too much deviation in this, and they would have probably ran a 20th place car all day. Anybody could have done it.
well, the problem is they could have been 20th, and if everybody pitted and they stayed out, and then all 20 people behind them stayed out too, they'd run first the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Because you literally could not pass. There's no room in the way that they're racing now for driver skill.
Right. And that's
Like the driver skill comes into play in certain instances, like at a drafting track or something, but
Well, to put
at a
it in
short
perspective,
track,
we're
it's
talking
just
short
drive it
tracks
in as deep
specifically.
as you. Yeah, you just drive in it as deep as you can, get on the brakes as hard as you can, drop a
Mhm.
gear, and take off.
Yeah, and it was the same
Like,
thing like that we saw last year or the first year of this car, where you could downshift the car if you missed the turn and turn back into the turn and take off, and you're fine. You didn't lose any ground. If you made a mistake, you could correct the mistake. And that shouldn't be the case. You should have to pay for the mistake that you made. You shouldn't be able to fix it.
hmm
So the reason that they are here is because they are the best of the best, and that they should be able to adjust on the fly. And if they make a mistake, they should be able to drive back. And there's none of that anymore. It's you make a mistake, you grab a gear. Make a mistake, you grab a gear. You overdrive the corner, grab a gear. But also, like you said, they're diving these cars in there. And the other thing is these cars are just so glued to the track is they're knocking the crap out of each other and nobody's getting you can't move them out of the way. That's another
yeah,
thing.
there's too much grip. There's too
Mhm.
much grip, and they've taken all the downforce off of these cars as they can. The cars are they're tanked. They're driving
Mhm.
tanks. They're way too heavy, and when you hit somebody, there's no there's no what's the word I'm looking for?
No
Penalty. No penalty. There's no
penalty.
penalty
Okay.
when you hit another vehicle because the composite bodies, yeah, that's more convenient for the teams because the bodies are more durable. But when you go in and drive and make that boneheaded move, and if for whatever reason you can make contact with somebody at a short track, nothing
Mhm.
happens because the car in front of you has so much is gripped up to the racetrack so much that they're not moving out of the way, and nothing, and their bumper's not taking any damage, and your front fender's not taking any damage to where you're like, maybe I'm gonna get a little bit of a tire rub if I hit them too hard, like you
There's
see in
no
the
such thing as a
Xfinity
tire
race.
rip anymore.
Yeah,
So there's no
yeah.
there's no like
There's no.
2021 Bristol where Chase got taken out by a tire rub from Harvick and returned the favor. There's
hmm
no more you bump them enough to where their car they have to do something. There is and again, I get it. I get that aspect. I get what NASCAR did. But in return for that, we have to make changes elsewhere because you took away some of what the racing product is. Yeah, granted, I hated seeing a random tire rub 50 laps into a run or
Ruin
10 laps
someone's
into a
day.
run. It ruined somebody's day that really didn't need it ruined or didn't something they out of their control. Like they get bumped, somebody uses them up and their day's ruined. Like I hated that, and I like that we can see that on like because you saw that a lot of mile and a halves where they would get their day ruined because of a tire rub because of their old bodies. But now they can kind of use each other up a little bit more. And I like the fact that there's more contact. There's more using each other up. This isn't supercars, F1, IndyCar where you can't touch them. It's where rubbing is
Yeah,
racing.
yeah. No, I like the physicality that this car has brought, but
Hmm.
there's just too many areas to where there should be penalties for the way you drive, and there's no penalty for driving in. Because
Yeah,
you would think that if you drive it in too deep and wash up the track, you're going to chatter your tires and they're going to wear quicker. But when you're bringing tires that don't really wear, I don't even think the fall off that you were seeing from tires is because they were wearing. They were just getting hot.
yeah,
You know, I don't think they were wearing. They were just getting hot. Like if I wish someone would have stayed out and just not took any tires when everybody else pitted just to see how bad would they have been getting destroyed after they've had time for their tires to cool off and everything and get back going. Like
right.
what's the discrepancy in that, you know?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
under
no,
no circumstance at a short track should tires make an entire fuel run. Under no circumstance. Like what, it just doesn't make any sense. Like I'm less amped to buy a Goodyear tire when I see that than I am if they made a tire that does fall off and create good racing.
right.
Like, does that make sense? I'm more likely if I see Goodyear making a good racing tire that creates a good racing product, I'm
Mhm.
more likely to go buy a Goodyear tire as a fan. But I'm not gonna like that. Just irritates my soul. I'm not gonna go spend money on Goodyear tires when they're not making good racing. Like, well, I take that back. Goodyear does good for NASCAR, and I would actually on my wife's car I put Goodyear tires, but
Mhm.
I would be I might put Goodyear tires on my truck. You know, that might be a different. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I just Goodyear needs to take a massive swing at the short track tire because at this point, NASCAR is not going to put horsepower into these cars anytime soon.
yeah,
So the only thing
there's no
that can
conversation
fix
even
the
there.
short track racing is them taking a huge swing at the tire. And I mean, Richmond isn't really that far away from happening again. Make that huge swing at Richmond and give us, say, hey, we're taking a leap of faith. Let's
Mhm.
see what happens. Hopefully, we get a Bristol esque tire, to where
Yeah,
instead of are we one stopping it or two stopping it, are we going to two stop it or three stop it at
right.
Richmond,
Yeah, and I
create
mean,
even
here's
more of a. Ooh,
yeah, and to add to your point about the tire is the fact is, like you said, that's the only thing that could be changed. There's only one other area that you could change that still probably wouldn't do much, and that's right height. There would be an easy change, something that would be more
mhm.
simple than. I know Clint Boyer mentioned something that was said about making the tire skinnier. Yeah, that'd be great. You're talking um, thousands of rims, hundreds of rims that now have to be remade, reforged, whatever process they have. Not a feasible option for the next race. You got ride height's feasible. Um, we've tried everything with Aero. Other than that, we've simplified everything on the car, and there's still nothing there. So that's the quickest and easiest way to fix the problem. Because here's the thing, like you said, the car put on a phenomenal short track show at Bristol because there was a tire that wore out, and the drivers that understand how to manage tires were able to be the most successful there. As you saw, three veterans.
Cream rose to the top.
Exactly. And that's what I want to see. And that's what these other guys will learn as they go. Like once you realize that if you push your car hard at the beginning, like I'm sure Ty Gibbs gets another swing with that setup, that package at Bristol, he's going to run a lot better because he's going to run more conservative at the beginning of the run to be able to be more competitive at the end of the run. It shouldn't be we're just running the same the entire run. There's got to be deviation in there somewhere. And horsepower conversation has been going on for 2 years, 2 to 3 years now, with no steps in any direction other than you now have Roush Yates and other engine builders coming forward and say, yeah, we could put another 100 horses in the car and it wouldn't be that much more expensive. Okay. Are we going to do it? Probably not. Not right now. It does
I
not
doubt
seem
it
like a
because
feasible option.
NASCAR is just holding on to the we want more OEMs thing. And
Yeah.
but that's been the case for how long
Since
have they been
Dodge
saying
left.
we want more OEMs? Yeah, like
And
no one's
what was
coming.
that?
No one has came.
2009, 2010? Yeah, we're 14 years into waiting on another OEM.
Yeah, like I've
I
seen the rumors of Honda, but the Honda rumors have died down. Dodge was allegedly coming back, but those rumors have gone away. I saw a rumor earlier this season that like Chevy is going to switch to Cadillac or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, but nothing changes,
Yeah, there's
and
not.
the way I look at it is maybe a manufacturer would be more amped to come into the series if the races looked better at all your racetracks. Because right now the only good racing we're having is mile and a half. But now we have short track. We have what 2, 4. I'm going to call it 6, 7 short track races with Wilkesboro now,
Mhm.
and 6 road course races. So that makes up a third of our schedule of is road course races and short track races, and they're abysmal.
Right. I mean, it has been
No
a
one's going to want to come into that. Like if you do something to make that product better, because you don't need to touch the 1.5 mile stuff. The 1.5 mile stuff is perfect. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. It's
right.
just the whatever you do to the short track. And that's what the road courses need too, is just more tire wear at the road course to where there is more of a comer and goer. And then the road
Hmm.
course racing will be significantly better too.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
that simple.
you. Obviously, we've proved you don't need more horsepower. I think that ship has kind of sailed away. It's
Right.
at this point the pressure. I feel like the pressure is solely on Goodyear because NASCAR has done everything that they can do to try and fix that without forcing Goodyear's hand or something.
And I
At
think
this
it's
point,
about
it's
time.
just yeah, it's just on Goodyear now. It's like, all right, we had this something that you didn't plan on happening happen. We need to figure out how to replicate this because this is exactly what we need. It's not
Hmm.
any packages or anything that we're bringing. It's just this. This is what we need. And the so I say that's all NASCAR can do. There's one more thing NASCAR can do. This
Hmm.
tiny little box that everybody's in, they can open it up, and
Yeah.
that will help a lot. There's a lot of things that NASCAR can say, all right, we've tried the whole parity thing, like Denny Hamlin said, and it sucks on short tracks. So on your on your short track cars and your road course cars, these are things that you can play with.
Yeah. Here's a little more space
Open
for you.
open up that box. Yeah, make more room for ingenuity, and that's going to create less parity at the short track, which is what you need at short tracks. You don't need a bunch of parity at short tracks because there's going to be no passing and see exactly what we've seen. So Goodyear needs to take massive swings, and if they're not willing to do that, then NASCAR's got to open the box.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, just in things that are like, all right, this could kind of, I think, opening up this area is going to make a difference. This area, obviously, you said ride height, like Clint Boyer said. I don't know what areas NASCAR can open up, but
Hmm.
we're in too tight of a box right now,
Well, I mean,
and
even
you got to
even
bring some
some
of that
simple
creativity
things.
back.
Yeah, I mean, you can change your air pressure limits, you can change your camber limits, you can change your gearing ratios, let them play with the transmission a little bit more. Or the other thing is take out shifting. So open your gear ratio to create it to where they can't downshift to fix a mistake. They have to pay for what happened. Because the fact is you can see the cars running other cars down. So the guys at speed can run them down. If you can force that guy into a mistake, but he can't downshift and dime in the corner, what are you going to do? Because that's what was happening. You overshoot the corner and you just dime in it with a downshift.
Yeah, so I was listening to Stacking Pennies, and Corey LaJoy had a good counterpart to the shifting thing. He said, well, if you change the gear ratio when you go to throttle down to make the pass, and you're gonna bog a little bit more because the gear is longer, so there's less power at the beginning of that gear. So
Right.
right now, when you're able to downshift and throttle up and get more power to the tires sooner, he said he thinks shifting is actually more beneficial, which I think that might be the only driver that said that, but that is a counterpart to that. And I mean, that's actually not a terrible argument,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
shifting might actually help the passing, but but like we've said,
well, I mean, you don't have to open
tire
that box
wear,
an entire a lot. You can open it enough to
yeah,
where if you make a mistake, you can't fix it with a shift, but if you're making the pass, you can use the shift. Like I'm not saying take it.
correct.
I guess I said take it out, but it's more along the lines of make it more strategic.
Yeah, to where it's not a necessity,
Yeah.
to where if you are going to make that pass, you can downshift.
Hmm.
That to where people aren't, to where shifting isn't a necessity to make your lap faster. To where some laps it's easier just to stay and whatever gear you're in and just ride around there because you're saving tire,
Hmm.
or the way your car's set up, you don't have to, you know, to where you're able to carry more speed, or not necessarily carry more speed, but in your off throttle time, I guess, yeah, carry more speed in your off throttle time. through
Right.
the corner and stuff. So depending on how your car's set up, if your car's able to handle that way,
Mhm.
But NASCAR's got to figure out where they can open up their box to change stuff, and Goodyear's got to figure out what they did at Bristol and recreate that at every road course and short track that we go to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
Because I don't want to. I think getting rid of short tracks isn't the answer, and because NASCAR's already tried, like, oh, mile and a half is the way to go. Let's water down our schedule of mile and a halves. That didn't work. Now, right now, it could because of how good the car is at mile and a halves, but short
that's the
tracks
best racing
are
other than Atlanta.
yeah, short tracks with, if we raced at Bristol every week in that same capacity that we had at Bristol, that would be perfect.
Right.
It would be perfect. Do you have the ratings, like the TV ratings for this race?
I have the viewership ratings. So per Adam Stern, FS1 got 2.19 million viewers for Sunday's Cup Series race, nearly flat from the 2.2. It was 2.19 to a 2.21. So about 100,000 person difference, and would consider that a win because of the Final Four the women's Final Four championship game was at a groundbreaking or historic 18.7 million views. Um, so going up against something of that capacity is a big W for NASCAR. It's a flat rating from last year's spring race, which was also it was probably a worse race than this race, but it was also colder then too than it was this year. But on top of that, I have the Jeff Gluck poll, which 31.9% said yes, it was a good race. Ranks 16 of 17 Martinsville races, with the lowest being the 2022 spring at 18.7. 51 of 52 on short track races, and 290 of 308 races in the poll. I mean, absolutely abysmal numbers. And I mean, I could have said that from Sunday night, which that's what I was saying, a little less coherently on X. But if you follow us on social, I was all over everything that had to do with everything with that. But the biggest thing is, like, again, the ratings are the ratings. Here's the thing about Martinsville. Martinsville is what it is. It's historic. It's great. It's a grand thing. Hendrick Motorsports fans were watching it. Your Chase Elliott effect last year probably helped those ratings because that was his first race back last year. This year, you're looking at Hendrick's 40th anniversary. As we have in our notes, but I'm going to mention it now, it was dumb for none of us to pick a Hendrick driver this week. Um,
Yeah, I
like,
didn't even think about it
I
when
didn't
we were
think
making
about
our
it.
picks last week.
Exactly. But you're talking 1, 2, 3, and fifth, sixth. So, I mean, eighth. So, but there was times where they were all running in the top four
Yeah, I was about to say at
in
one
order.
point they were 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was times with that, but you're looking at Fox was just Hendricked out. Hendrick has the most popular driver with Chase Elliott. It has the biggest names in the sport right now, Kyle Larson and William Byron. Biggest name in racing, Kyle Larson. Speaking of that, he tested at Indy today and ran second in lap
Second.
time, I think. Yeah. So that may be interesting to watch because I could see him winning both.
Man, I hope he wins both just because of how historic that would be
Yeah.
to be
And
able to win both.
I hate Lionel because to buy the pack, it's like $400 for both 124 cars,
Jesus.
which sucks because I want both. You can buy a signed edition on, I think, Pristine Auction for like $700. But yeah, I ain't spending that kind of money right now.
Yeah, I don't like
But
Kyle Larson that much.
that was a side note to it. But at the end of the day, I mean, the ratings are there. You look back to 2022 fall with the Hellmelon. So that creates this aura around Martinsville, which already has an aura around it because of its history. And there's where your ratings come from. And I'm going to be honest, I had the race on.
Aside of that race was boring.
Yeah, I was not really that interested in the race. Like, I was watching it because I wanted to, but I was not locked to the TV, like sitting there, like leaning forward in my seat, like what's the next thing that's gonna happen. I was watching from the kitchen because I was using the grill and the smoker, so I was cooking and just hanging out, but I wasn't really tuned into that. And the only reason that that stayed on the TV is because I'm a NASCAR fan, and because Emily's a NASCAR fan, and because my kids honestly enjoy it because they love the colors of the cars. But I mean, there's nothing enjoyable about it. There was nothing enjoyable about it. You're
Yeah, I mean,
watching parade
I
laps.
remember even the 2021 Martinsville. I distinctly remember that on restarts, Michael McDowell would jump to the outside and go 3 wide at Martinsville because he knew people were going to bog down in those 2 lanes, and he was going to be able to roll a car or two on the outside and gain 4 spots. I remember that. I remember Dale Jr.
Hmm.
was doing that as well when he had like the silver Mountain Dew car. I remember that because a bunch of people were getting pissed at him. I remember Martinsville has put on some great racing. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Joey Logano Matt Kenseth incident, you know,
Hmm.
or Joey Logano Martin Truex. There's just been so many good battles that you've seen happen at Martinsville, and it's just yeah, you're not going to see a good Martinsville race with this package. It's just besides, I mean, it was good for 31% of people, but those people are probably the 1,500 Hendrick people that went to the race. That's
Right.
probably the people that voted yes. You know.
Yeah. If you're a William Byron fan, if you're a Hendrick fan, or if you just like parades, then yeah, you voted yes. So at the end of the day, I mean, do I think Martinsville should lose a date because of what it is? No. But
No,
if they can't fix this, throw dirt on it. Do something. I don't know. I mean, figure out something to create some type of gimmick because you outlawed the Hell Melon. The only saving grace in the next gen for Martinsville is the Hell Melon. That's now just fully illegal, fully blown away. But I mean, we're coming up.
John Hunter Nemechek tried
Dude,
at the end of the race.
we're the biggest thing right here is we're talking about the fact that like we talk about the summer lull. We're in the spring lull right now. You went Coda, Richmond, Martinsville. We got Texas. I have hope that Texas performs well, being a mile and a half, but Texas
I mean,
historically has not
the
been
bar
great.
is so low right now, and I mean, me and you talked earlier in the week that my expectations for Texas are so low
Hmm.
already. I don't expect Texas to, which I didn't expect Martinsville or Richmond to really be good races either. I was slightly optimistic, but
Right,
I did not have my hopes up at all. I
right,
knew that in reality we were not going to get what we wanted, and obviously we did not. Out of those 2 races, it was terrible. But
yeah.
I mean, coming off the 3 races that we've had, how bad can it be?
Hmm.
Knock on
But
some wood, but how bad
apparently,
can it be?
yeah. I mean, there's only so far it could go, and
Yeah. I mean,
luckily
according to Denny
Texas has
Hamlin,
put
the
on
track
some.
might come apart.
Ah. Do we want to dive
You weren't
into that
ready for
now?
that one, were you?
I was not, but
Yeah.
it made me think about Digger Denny. Just
Oh
they're
God. Yeah. I was like, that's way too close. Y'all got to
dude,
stop.
you're looking at you're looking at you're looking at he's gonna be out there and it's gonna be playing Whack-A-Denny on the track at North Wilkesboro. But yeah, let's go ahead and shift gears. I think we've complained enough for the time being.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's get into some beef from the weekend. And this was all on Twitter. If you just search Denny Hamlin and Marcus Smith, you'll find it. But I'll go ahead and just read it. I have it all here. So a guy named at Corey G Lewis on Instagram. It appears Sonoma's new pavement is already coming up. Photos in the braking zone in turn 11. And the pavement looks probably, I would say, I mean, this is probably the best bet. Probably about that thick
Paper
in the
thin.
picture.
Yeah.
Like that's this is not sponsored, unfortunately, but these are the Beats Pros, and that's the thickness. Yes, solid, blue and red. But that's about the thickness the pavement looks. So Denny retweets it, and Denny says, when paving on a budget goes wrong, NWB, Northwest Speedway, will be next, which these are SMI owned tracks. So Marcus Smith comments back, who is what, CEO, owner of SMI, something along those lines. He says, following up in my previous post, our team at Speedway Motorsports has an amazing track record for working to exceed expectations. Probably talking Atlanta. I think Atlanta. So, because I think Atlanta was an SMI project, if I'm correct. But exceeding expectations. Your nonchalant post is an insult to the hundreds of people that are dedicated to exceeding expectations for the racing community and NASCAR fans around the world. You're a negative comments. That's bad. Negative comments would carry a lot more weight if you had a championship to back them up. Good luck in your quest for 2024. Just immediately, like, has no rebuttal about, like, we're sorry this
roasted.
happened. We're just like, go after Denny.
Yeah.
So, and then it says, this is a great post. Marcus continues to say, this is a great post from somebody who doesn't know all the information. Ignorance on display for the world to see. And then in parentheses, it says, I will delete this tweet when @Denny Hamlin sends me a text or gives me a call directly to ask why this is happening. So Denny responds, you don't need to delete. We've seen your reconfig record. And then Marcus responds with, yes, we take some risks. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We've seen your attempts at the championship as well. When you have a chance, maybe you could give me some golf tips. So again, Marcus just immediately dives right back into Denny. So this is all provoked at this point. Denny, of course, I mean, it's an outspoken voice. It's just like what we are doing right here. We're a podcast. We're here to speak our opinions. And they're just like assholes. Everybody has one. So that's what we're here for, is to speak our
Some are
opinion.
shittier than others.
Exactly. So we go on from there, and Denny replies back. And this is where it starts getting personal on Denny's side. He said, here's your tip. Let someone else run your business before you blow everything up that your dad gave you. And that's just
Knockout
like,
blow.
ciao. Yeah. And then Marcus replies with, so proud of my dad, Hall of Famer. If he had a Twitter/X account, I don't think his comment would be family friendly. So listen here, almost NASCAR champion. Keep working at it one day and you're going to get a big trophy. Thanks for the tip.
I think hell for
Crickets.
Marcus Smith.
Oh, it's a huge L, dude. It's the same. It was the same response every time. You don't have a champion. You don't have a
Denny
champion.
Hamlin probably saw the "you don't have a championship" thing and was like,
It's the same thing that his fiance
Really?
used on him when he got engaged.
yeah,
It said, rings Jordan 1, Denny 0. I mean,
yeah. Denny's like 50 something wins. I'm okay.
yeah,
I'm
I think
doing
he's at
good.
like 54 now.
Yeah,
So, but
he's doing well for himself. He almost got his third victory of the season this year.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
here's the whole thing is it's almost like Marcus to me didn't want to take responsibility for what happened. Like, divert the attention, which just worked perfectly for Denny because this was towards the end of the week when everybody was still talking about the restart at Richmond.
Yeah, it got people off Denny's back about the restart zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mission accomplished. She's like, I wish someone would come out with a new paint scheme.
So, but I think like Denny's got a good point on that end. Do I don't really know much about paving. I don't know much about any of this other than the fact that the track tore up. And again, we're
From the
going to an
pictures, it
SM
doesn't look
tri
that great.
right. But we're going to an SMI track this weekend that is historically, since a reconfiguration repave, has been consistently
Boo-boo.
horrible. So, I mean, I don't know. I think SMI has some things up their sleeves, but it seems like their best thing that they're good at is Atlanta. What they created at Atlanta
In Talladega.
and Talladega with the repave there.
Yep.
But here's the other thing is like DVC talked about this. They did do some repaving at Atlanta already. They had to patch turn 1 and turn 2.
I think that was before they even raced on there the first time that they had to redo some stuff.
Yeah. So, I don't know, hire better paving crews. I don't really have
Yeah.
an answer there.
I
I
mean,
don't
I've
work in
seen
that
some of the
trade.
roads in Georgia, so
Yeah, have you ever been
it
through
doesn't
Atlanta?
surprise me.
So,
Yeah.
much less Texas. Goodness.
But I mean, Denny Hamlin kind of broke down on his podcast basically what this stems from is really apparent, allegedly, from what I've gathered, the person that's really hindering the charter negotiations is SMI because they're not willing to come off the money like everybody else is to give the teams more money.
Mm. See, I didn't get
So
to
I
that
think
part.
that's where Denny's frustration stems from, is because that's where the piece of the pie has to come from, is from the track owners. And they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And
And
Denny's
I mean,
like, well, he said, you see the NASCAR owned tracks. If you go to a NASCAR owned track at like Daytona or something like that, you see how extravagant the facilities are. But when you get to a SMI track, they're outdated.
well,
He
I'll
said,
say this from, and you could probably speak to this more, but from what you sent me when you went to Daytona last year versus what we see at Talladega is
well, I think Talladega is a NASCAR track too. I
okay.
don't think Marcus Smith owns
Atlanta
Talladega.
and Atlanta's an SMI track,
Mm.
but Phoenix is a NASCAR track. Look at Phoenix to Atlanta. We went to Phoenix.
Way different.
Phoenix is a phenomenal facility. Atlanta,
Mm.
they've done things there, but it's still outdated. I mean,
Yeah.
let me be clear and frank with anybody that has not been to Atlanta. If you are a male and you go to Atlanta, it's a trough. It is a straight trough in the bathroom. No walls, no nothing.
Look up.
Yeah, look straight up. Don't look down. Don't look
Hmm.
left. Don't look right. Don't talk. Just look up. And if you have kids, take them in the
Wonderful
stalls.
weather we're having. This is a
So,
great race.
but in reality, like that should not be a thing. I got I went to Atlanta. We went to Atlanta summer race last year. I went to Atlanta spring race this year. I got a questionnaire sent to my email, and in both of them, they asked, "What could we improve?" Dude, start with the bathrooms. Like the concourse, I think is what you would call it or consider it. The mezzanine area is it's okay. They have plenty of food options and everything throughout it. They've done better. They actually
Yeah,
opened
and
a
that's
bar
all
up there, by
people
the
are
way.
really looking. Yeah, that's
They
all people are really looking for as far as that. And like the grandstand area is there somewhere to get food, and what's the bathroom situation like? But as far as like infield stuff, like the garage experiences at a NASCAR track versus a SMI track, apparently I don't know if I've been to the infield of we haven't when me
I
and
haven't done
you
the
went
infield
to
at Atlanta.
Atlanta, I
Mm-mm.
don't think we went. No.
That's probably going to be the fall race just for the comparison aspect. Now,
Hmm. Apparently, the infield aspect is completely different because the infield at like Phoenix and Talladega, because we've been in the infield of both of those, like the
hmm
way the garage setup is pretty similar,
yeah, they're
but it's
both
still
like
the access that it allows is incredible, you
yeah.
know.
So like just for kind of reference, when you go and I'm going to use Talladega and Phoenix because they are similar. You go through the tunnel, you come up. Talladega, obviously, you take the tram. At Phoenix, you walk it because obviously 2.5 miles versus a mile. But you go into the garage area. The cars are behind. The cars aren't just out there. So you're in basically like this fan experience, fan zone as they call it. So there's food there. There's vendors. There's giveaways, all types of games and stuff. And there's a lot of just fan friendly area. There's viewing areas with big screens and fans. You can walk up to the fence to pit road. But then when you go to the garage, it's all enclosed. So you go through a door and then you're actually in the garage. There's a little chain link fence that's about 4 foot high. And then you have the cars where the teams are working on them, pulling them in and out, where toolboxes are and everything. The cars are right there, another probably 8 to 10 feet in front of you. And that's what and I'm pretty sure it's conditioned spaces as well, even though they are open. But like, think about this. Is it, what's the name of it? Big Bills, I think it is, at Talladega,
Infield
in the
restaurant.
infield. It is a giant indoor conditioned viewing area, garage, bar, everything with massive
Hey,
projector
that's
screens and
awesome.
everything. It is one of the best places to just go enjoy the race, especially if you
Hmm.
plan on going to Victory Lane, because when you are on the infield, you are at Victory Lane. So that $100 that you pay for your infield ticket instead of buying grandstand, you're right there at pit road the entire race. You're in the garage. You have a conditioned space to go sit in. You have cheaper food and drink than the outside,
Hmm.
and you have free access to Victory Lane because you already paid for it with your ticket. Like we went and hung out with it was when we went to the fall race for your bachelor trip in 2022 at Talladega. We went for the weekend. During the Xfinity race, we went to the garage for the race, and we watched the race from the garage in Big Ben's and hung out there. Which is funny because they had like the Alabama gang there, so you had like Red Farmer and those guys in there that were signing autographs and hanging out. We were getting food for really cheap. And then we went and watched AJ Allmendinger in Victory Lane. We met Daniel Hemrick in Victory Lane. Matt
Chris
Colley, Chris
Rice was
Rice.
super interactive
Yeah, talking with
with
fans,
everybody there.
like everybody just crowded around the car. And I mean, it's a really cool experience. Now, I can't speak for SMI on this, but that is something that the fan wants, that I want to do. Like, I want to buy the garage experience for that purpose. So, I mean,
Yeah, because
I,
that's what I've been. So I have been on the infield in Atlanta. I was trying to think about it, but that might have been 14 years ago ish. So that's
mhm.
so I can't comment on
Yeah,
the
it's
infield
been
of
like 10
Atlanta
years since I've been in there.
because
I know the way it's
I
set
was
up
old
is
enough.
it's
I was
like,
old enough to be locked in. Like, where's Dale Jr.? You know,
yeah,
that's all I was focused on when I was there.
I think the way that the infield is set up at Atlanta is that I know from the time that I was there because I've been there for Import Alliance, which is an imported car show that they do every year there. But it's set up in garage, like the garages are buildings. Now I don't know during NASCAR where you can get to and where you cannot. I think they have walkways, and then instead of walking,
Hmm.
like in at Talladega and Phoenix, it's continuous. You walk up one side and then back down. So it's like a loop with fencing. So it's kind of the same,
Hmm.
but you're walking. It's almost like you're walking out on peninsulas every time. So the best way I can describe it is a peninsula. You walk up one side and walk back down the other, and then you walk outside, go up one side and down the other. Now, Victory Lane wise, I know it's towards the end of pit road at Atlanta, but I don't know how you get there. And I don't know if you can get there with a garage pass, with like a fan experience garage zone, fan zone pass. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Again,
well, that might be a business expense for gases on the right to buy me and use some garage passes for Atlanta
yeah, we gotta go. We
as
gotta
a
go. Like, see what
it's
happens.
for podcasting purposes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
podcasting
this is
purposes
a
and podcasting
clearly a
purposes
business
only.
expense.
Yeah,
Yep.
let me just while I'm up there, let me go ahead and business expense Charlotte too. For I'll go ahead and get the
Yeah.
garage experience for that as well while I'm there.
Yeah.
But
Get the VIPs.
yeah, I know SMI has been a big point of contention in NASCAR in the last few years, and it's a lot to do with these repays and reconfigurations.
Mhm.
And again, I've only seen one that really works well. We covered Bristol with dirt, which is Bristol is SMI, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we covered one of your tracks with dirt for 3 years. We covered
And we're possibly robbed of the greatest short track of the next gen era, short
because
track
you were
race of the
so
next
worried
gen era,
because it sucks so
3
bad.
times. Yeah.
Um, Atlanta has only started to come alive now after last summer.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
It
Atlanta
took
is aging
two
like a
years.
fine wine.
Oh yeah, and it's going to continue to do so. Thank you, Georgia weather. Again, like the bad weather we had today, or this evening at least. Freaking tail end of the storm
Currently.
just takes down all the
Yeah.
trees. So, but yeah, Texas. We're 2019, I think it is. We don't have our fact checker. Like that's the problem we have right now.
I remember because we talked about it in an earlier episode. It was 2017 is when it got
2017.
repaved.
See, that's why I was saying that. Our fact checker would have had that. She knows. But
It's a good thing I have
2017 repave.
an owl brain.
That's right. For the most part. 2017, and you're talking this far into a repave and reconfigure or repave, and we still don't have good racing. We have mediocre racing at best right now.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I feel like the last like 2 times we've been to Texas, it hadn't been terrible. It's been like decent.
the best
It
race at
just hasn't
Texas in the
been.
last 5
It hadn't
years was the
been.
truck race last year.
Yeah.
And
It
that
just
has to do with
hasn't.
a
It
lot of
hadn't
what
been
happened
like
on track. But
Kansas. It hadn't been Kansas or like Charlotte or Las Vegas or Homestead or. I mean, the more mile-and-a-half tracks that I list that good races is the worst. Makes Texas look a little bit worse, but
right.
I mean, it's put it in the category with like Pocono,
Yeah. Yes.
Michigan. Now that the cars don't even go freaking. I want to see 212 miles an hour into the corner at Michigan,
Yeah, you won't get it.
and we're not getting that. Nope.
So that's a damn shame.
I mean,
Richmond, north of Richmond,
what
man. Come
NASCAR's
on.
gotten to
So, well,
Richmond and Daytona.
I guess from there, we'll just roll on to it. So let's talk about points real quick. And then we'll go into our picks review and we'll get our picks out for Texas. So, point standing is you have Larson, Truex, Hamlin, Byron, Blaney, Elliott, Gibbs, Chastain, Reddick, and Bowman, rounding out the top 10 in points. And now Suarez has been bumped outside of the top 16 in points, bumping Briscoe out in the playoff system with his standings. So, any surprises in the points right now, either in the top 10 or in the overall?
Yeah, everybody's been talking about how much pressure, how probably Alex Bowman has more pressure than Chase Elliott does to perform. Well, here we are, what, 8 weeks in, and he's top 10 in points. I think he's probably had the most been quietly consistent out of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
He's not winning races, but he's quietly consistent.
Yeah.
I guess a disappointment for me would probably be Corey LaJoy. He's 28th in points, which he's had a horrendous few weeks. He
right.
Where'd they go before Coda? Bristol. He didn't have that great of a race at Bristol because they were never able to figure the whole tire situation out.
In the last
then they
6
go to
races,
Coda.
he's averaged 29.7 finishing position.
Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they go to Coda and he qualifies 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he qualified 5th. And in the first lap completely screws that. Then they go to Richmond and he runs legitimately dead last all race. And then this week, I don't know what happened. He was fastest in practice. Did you see that? He won on the charts in practice and then had a terrible qualifying run because of how he's finished the past few weeks. He's going out super early in Group A, so he's getting the crap into the stick in qualifying.
Right.
So obviously he qualifies in the back in 32nd and then goes a lap down, stays a lap down, gets his lap back, then has a loose wheel and loses 2 laps, and then his day's done.
Right.
They've just had. It's like
been abysmal. It's
It's
been a
like they're
snowball effect.
there, but they're not at the same time, you know?
Well, it's like when one thing goes wrong, you expect the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and it's a snowball effect downhill. And until they can just have something go right in some aspect, it's probably going to continue because if you can't get going in a good trend, you're going to keep trending backwards. And that's just kind of how it is. I mean, that's the sport. You look at Byron in the summer the last few years. He's had horrible summers that have cost him a regular season championship when he's been one of the best drivers and best cars on the track. And
Spring, and it's another trend this week. 3
yeah, I
wins
mean,
already.
look at that. 3 wins, but he's has an average of 12th place versus
Yeah,
I
well,
mean
he's
his
got 3
other
wins,
two
and he's
teammates.
only we're 8 races in. He's got 3 wins, and he's only fourth in the points.
It's these are
Like you've won
it's almost like
three
feast or
times, and you're only
famine
fourth in the point.
for
Yeah.
the 24 right now.
Hmm.
So, but
But
I
there's a
mean,
lot more feast
yeah,
going on.
he's just I don't know. Corey LaJoy though definitely overhyped at that point. But I mean, let's look at real quick. We'll go back to Spire and LaJoy. You look at his Spire teammate Carson Hocevar. Average finish in the last 6 races 20.6.
9 positions better.
Mm-hmm. And where's he sitting at points wise? Do you know offhand?
No, I do know that Josh Berry's leading all the, even though he severely disappointed me this week during the race.
Right.
He's leading the rookies in points in 23rd.
He's 25th in points, and he's got his teammate LaJoy by 20 points, so half a race.
Yeah.
And speaking just
Half
of
half a
somebody,
good race.
your flop of the year thus far would have to be Zane Smith at
Oh my gosh.
35th right now.
Terrible.
There's
Terrible.
36
He's the
charters
last out of everybody that drives weekly,
full
right?
time. Yep, last place full time driver. So he is 242 points back.
Jesus. Talk about a
So
deficit. It's a good thing if he backs into a win somewhere the way they changed it, he's
look at it
playoff
this
bound.
way: Kaz Gralla in the 15 car, Rick Ware Racing is 227 points in 33rd, and Justin Haley is 224 in 32nd. He's got them. He's got him by again half a race minimum.
Yeah,
And that's Rick
his
Ware
year is
Racing
just
cars.
I
But
don't
Zane
know
is
what's
not
going
caught a
on
break
with
anywhere, dude. Like something.
no.
It's the same thing we've seen with
No,
LaJoy. Like
they need
they
a
need an
major
overhaul.
change.
71 needs an overhaul.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the 7 cars
The
got
sevens
needs
just kind of
just a
had
little
some shit
momentum.
luck.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
need a little bit of momentum. You know, stage points maybe come together and figure out how to win a stage with some strategy and get some
Yeah,
momentum
that's
going.
what
And I think they can build from that.
they just need. Yeah, they just need something right to go their way, and then they can
Hmm.
start. Their snowball can start trending uphill, not downhill. You know, they just
I
need
agree.
something right to happen for them. But
It's
Zane
it's it's
Smith
one
needs
thing.
a complete. Yeah, that's
Complete
just
just
terrible
overhaul.
over there.
Yeah, they're having a bad time. They're having a real bad time. But
Hmm.
I guess from there we will just slide on over into picks. So we'll go last week's picks of our winner is not here. Emily with Logano. You had Barry, I had Briscoe. She finished 6th, I got 10th, and you unfortunately 25th, which I think was a speeding penalty again.
Where he
The four
had
cars
in the after the first pit stop, they had a slow pit stop. The second pit stop, they had a slow pit stop, and then he spit on pit road. And then the last pit stop, they had a slow pit stop. To where every
right.
time they came down pit road, he lost a bunch of spots.
And it's just there's nothing you can do when it's a track position race and you're gonna run parade laps and you can't pass. You're just
Yeah.
you're gonna sit where you sit. So, but Emily with the win, which fortunately that gives her first pick this week, and she did text it in to me. But she is gonna go with Ty Gibbs for this week. So 1.5 mile Toyota. This pretty JGR car, good pick. But I guess I get to go second now, and I'm torn, but I got a feeling they're gonna put something together, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of take a run on this one and take a stab. I'm gonna go Josh Berry this weekend. I know we just dogged on him on
Hmm.
pit road, but I'm gonna go with a Ford, and I'm gonna go with Berry.
I'm going to go with the guy that qualified on the pole here last year and finished third,
Mm-hmm.
Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace. That is probably one of the better picks for this weekend, if not the winning pick for this weekend. So,
I need it to
with
catch me
that,
back up in our point standings.
yeah, where are we sitting right now, Mr. Daniel, sir?
Emily has 5 points. You have 3, and I have 2.
That is it's quite the conundrum there, bud. We gotta start making up ground. Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah,
have taken the stab,
yeah.
but
It's not too late as long as you don't want to take Wallace. Ooh, give
that
her since she didn't make it. Give her Ricky Stenhouse. Or no, give her Harrison Burton.
she would yeah.
And that
That
would be the one time Harrison Burton gets a top 10 finish.
exactly. If you want somebody to run good right now, just let her make the pick. Like this is the complete opposite of the Bob Hawker's picks. So, I mean, talk about just getting
I know
getting it done.
I was on a heater for a minute. I was like, all right, I got all my crappy picks out of the way. Like we're rolling smooth now. And then
Yeah, let's
that one
see.
just freaking fell apart at the wheels with Josh Berry this week. And all our picks qualified consecutively, 6th, 7th, and the 8th. And I was like, oh,
Yeah, I
this
thought
is
it
going to
was
be
going
a
to be a
great
real
week.
real challenge,
Yeah.
but
And then Martinsville.
yeah, and we got what
Well,
we
not I
got.
wouldn't even. That's a disrespectful. Martinsville did not Martinsville.
NASCAR,
It did.
NASCAR.
Yeah, NASCAR, or Goodyear. Those tires would have lasted a good year. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
for real. So, well, guys, make sure to tune in this weekend. Texas Motor Speedway coming up. Also, don't forget to go and follow Tyler on our social medias, our sponsored car in the Legends series. He has a race coming up here shortly, so keep your eyes open. We'll be posting it on socials. And we hope to see you all guys all here next week back on Gases on the Right after post Texas. Hopefully, a lot more eventful than what we saw this week. I would rather talk about good racing than complain about NASCAR. So I hope you all have a good week.